Welcome to Wormhole Wednesday on April 16th, 2025, episode 1. My name's Ajit, here with our co host, Evie Kuvo.
Hiya.
So, we wanted to start a podcast to go over some of the latest wormhole things that are going on. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to keep up to date with things that are happening in JSpace, and wanted to give a place for people to be able to do so. Got a couple of things we're going to go over today. Let's start with our introductions here. Evie, do you want to go ahead and start with yourself?
Sure. Evie Kovu. I've got a lot of experience in wormhole space, specifically in small gang and solo PvP. It's my favorite thing to do in the game, and I've taken a lot of that experience together here, and we all formed a Corp Silence, and that's kind of where we're at now. How about you, Ajit?
Well, I guess one more question for you. How long have you been in JSpace?
Basically, since I started, if you go to my Z kill, the very first loss I have, it looks real sus, but it's a venture in Thera.
Wow.
Um, I was told to go figure out what I wanted to do, so I did, and people said mining was really good. I didn't like mining, um, so I tried gas huffing because I'm like, well, it's kind of like mining. And the first wormhole I picked was Thera, which when you go to find a new corp, when you're brand new at the game and your first loss is Thera, it raises a lot of eyebrows.
That is quite the first wormhole to get into. Were you given an entrance to that, or you just stumbled upon Thera first go?
I just when I was new, I was like looking up where to go, and someone was just like, "Eve Scout scans down wormholes." So I'm like, "Cool, I'll go take a look at this," and it was Thera.
Wow. Yeah, that is definitely an interesting look on your Zco when you're trying to apply for corpse. Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, so you did that. Did you continue gas huffing afterwards, or?
I went to scanning very quickly after. My new bro experience was unlike a lot of people's. I had a friend who got me into the game who gave me a bunch of injectors. When he found out that I was mining, he gave me a skill extractor and said, "Rip that shit out of your head." And he said, "If you like wormholes, go scan and hack." So I did. And then I joined ERB back when they still existed.
Okay, what kind of hole were they in?
They were in a C4, C4, 3-4.
Oh, right into
Yeah.
it. Shaved a couple of years off of your path. Yeah, my path is not nearly the same. I joined a high sec corp. Quickly stopped playing the game after that. Joined lawn. Quickly stopped playing the game again. When I came back to the game after that, the corp I was in lawn joined in it, which definitely helped retain me a little bit more into the game. And then started watching wormhole stuff. Caught what Mark Resurrectus was doing on Imperium News and ended up joining high class with Turbo and met
I was
Evie
gonna
and
ask.
kind of went from there.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. Like, that is how you got into wormholes, huh? With Mark, huh?
Yep, yep. Imperium watching Mark with Brisk. Yeah, I think there was a time where Mark was a guest before he started actually co-hosting, and definitely pushed me towards doing J-Space stuff. I thought he seemed like a cool guy and wanted to see what it was all about.
Yeah, I remember. So obviously, I went into wormholes very early. There was one period where I tried Brave back when they were in Fade. And there was so much, like scrolling through Mumble, there were so many channels. It was brand new to the game. They had a whole wiki that you had to look through. I didn't have enough SP to do anything other than like belt mine or belt rat.
Yep.
And then they had like a big warning on there, like occasionally this thing will come over and just kill you, and there's nothing you could do about it because it's an officer. So I was super paranoid about that. And it was also right during the Fade War that broke out. So like you would jump into a gate into tie-dye and like you had no idea what was going on. It was such an overwhelming experience, and then I went to wormholes and I'm like, this is perfect. There's like 10 people on comms in a Discord. This is great.
No heads up as soon as somebody jumps into the system either, unless you are actively paying attention and in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. No, it was nice. I mean, it there's a lot of protections given to you because there's no local.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of like things that aggressors are going to use because there's no local. But a lot of people just focus on the aggressors part. But being a new bro in wormholes, there's a whole lot of protection.
Yeah. Absolutely. And especially as you only learn to hide yourself better and better, it gets easier and easier essentially as you do the longer you do it.
Yeah, and you also learn like how long you can be out ratting. Right, I remember as a new bro, I wasn't self-sufficient off PvP yet. I would run 3 C3 sites a night in a Gila. That's it. I knew that if I did any more, the chances of me dying went up like ridiculous. So I just did 3 a night, like during the dead time when the time zone's like over an ocean, but still, nonetheless, it's just how you do it.
Yeah, at what point do you feel like you started to get self-proficient and like self-funded by PvP?
Um, I think so. I went back and forth between ERB to wingspan to ERB to wingspan and just back and forth, back and forth.
Right.
Um, which became a reoccurring problem I had all the way throughout my Eve journey. Trying to split the difference between I want to be in a group that's dedicated to hunting and small gang stuff, and wanting to live in a wormhole was difficult because obviously everyone who's living in wormholes want more members to defend things, so on and so forth. I would say by the second bout in Wingspan is when I actually became self-sufficient off of PvP. I I lost a Tengu that I spent a lot of money on, and that was like a point where I basically said I'm done brawling. Brawling was just a stat check, right?
Right.
It's do you have the DPS to kill the thing you're trying to kill, or do they have the DPS to kill you? And once I got away from that stat checking like mentality, the game just opened up. I had the ability to take fights and control everything that was around me. And the second it got bad, I could leave, or I could like try to reposition and stretch things out to collapse and just win the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that I've even quite reached the point where I'm self solo proficient with PvP, but as a group, obviously, we have quite proven the opposite, where we have funded just about everything we've wanted, and we're still continuing to make money off of doing so. Not at an extreme level, but at enough to get by, which has been fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, I
So
made enough to hand out free ships and everything.
yeah, absolutely. Corp hangers are always stocked. Boys always have dictors to fly. SRP and even some bigger losses as well. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I guess we can kind of get into corp stuff a little bit, what we've been doing, and then we'll move on to. We've got some BRs planned to look at, and then we've got a guest coming on a little bit later here. I think that should be shown here. Some of the fun stuff that we've been getting into. I actually wasn't here for this, but on one of the Saturdays last month, some of the boys found Odin's fort that was being flipped. Maybe you want to elaborate on that a little further since you were there, Evie?
sure. So Kaneka's the individual who found it. He bumped into Odin's Call's home, and Odin's Call's a group that we're a little bit skittish of just because they have so many members and they all do the same stuff that we do. So it's not like we can just kind of get by on experience. Um, but Kaneko noticed that one of their forts were anchoring, and we kind of had an idea in our head of like how do we play with this, right? So we reached out to some groups. We're like, hey, this is happening like right now. Do you want to do it? And they're in the middle of an op. Um, then we kind of came around to the idea of like, oh, it's off D scan. Maybe we can get in when they're in the middle of a roam. And we got almost everything in during the roam. I think there was one scanner that didn't get in during the roam, but they kind of just ignored it. It was just a scanner. They then rolled the nullsec off, didn't roll off the connection that we were using, but by that point it was too late. We've already become set up. Um, we originally thought it was going to be an impel that warped, and then a Fenrir undocked, and we all kind of got super excited. We were like, can we even kill this? We didn't think it was even the ship that was going to go to the anchoring fort. Um, so we're just like, do we do it? Do we potentially blow it on this freighter, or do we wait for the impel to come back out? And then we're just like, no, we got to do it. We got to at least try. So we threw up a stop bubble, and then we did another stop bubble, 100 off or 150 off that or something. And luckily, 3 bombers were enough to kill it. And then we were unable to kill the wreck that dropped the core. So that was unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we got the kill mail, gave some the boys some of their money back. Um I think we also, if I'm not mistaken, lucked out a little bit as well. There was the charity tournament going on at the time that they were partaking in at that exact moment.
Yes,
If
we were talking to some of them afterwards, and they're like, dude, that exact moment, not only was this tournament happening where a lot of us were watching it, but they were also in the current match.
yeah,
So they were watching the match, obviously like listening to it, probably deafened and muted in comms. Um, Real unfortunate timing.
yeah, that's about what I heard from one of our friends in Odin's. Uh, Unfortunate timing. Turned out pretty okay for us. I think if even one of the cargo expanders looking at the video was a bulkhead, he lived. But that time, yeah, happened to work out for us. We're bubble trap. God's provided. Some of the other stuff that we really enjoy doing and have been practicing for better or worse a lot of lately is running bait. Having specific characters that are meant to look like they're running sites or rolling holes to try to provoke a response out of people because not necessarily everybody's willing or able to fight at a level that we can even handle sometimes. If we try to organize something, it might be out of our hands and we get absolutely blobbed because, again, our corp is made up of exactly 5 guys at the moment. So we kind of have to get fights on our terms, especially against bigger groups. So baiting has turned out pretty well for us most of the time. In this particular instance, was the best case that we've had of that within about the last week or two here. Actually, it was over the weekend. Um, we started out by pretending to roll some holes, and lo and behold, we had Bob Volt come and react to that, and ship after ship kept coming in. At one point, they even thought that they had pulled all their Vargers off, and ended up getting some Bushes off of Astra House and sealing the deal at that point. Evie actually has a fantastic video up on his YouTube where some of our fights go, some of previous stuff that Evie has with some great info in it ends up going. Um, your YouTube page actually also going back to the beginning, kind of decently, decently pretty well documents your experience through Eve, huh?
Yeah, yeah, for the most part. I think God, I don't even know how long it's been since I started recording. It's been a long time.
Looks like your oldest video is about 4 years old at this point.
Jeez.
Starting out with the old Heron special, and
Oh yeah,
I'm
yeah,
guessing some low class. So
yeah.
that sounds
I,
about right.
yeah. I think it's literally me and an Artie Loki just popping a heron for
Yep.
funs.
Yep.
Uh,
Party Loki. We do also have, yeah, the Fenrir kill. Evie managed to capture that as well. It's quite got some pretty funny commentary in it from some of the boys as we kill it, or they
yeah.
kill it.
I
Uh,
think the coolest thing that happened in the Bob Volt fight was really Kaneko's call there. Noticing like, oh, he's gonna have a combat timer. Let me go get him. And
yes.
he just does.
Yep.
He does bounce off the fort to the Astro, but not before reaggressing. So when he lands on the Astro, Kaneko just grabs him again, and we're able to get the boosh off because he locked one of us and didn't drop it in time to get tethered up.
Yeah, and then we got him what, like 350 off of the Astra, and just
Yeah,
proceeded to continue to fight there.
right. But
Oh,
enough about us.
Yep, I think that about covers what we've done to this point, and we've got a couple of things that have been going on within wormhole space lately that we wanted to kind of start to take a look at.
We can talk about the Rolled Owls eviction. Yeah, most notable thing here, Rolled Owls was evicted
Yep.
by HK.
Yep. What are they? C4 Corp. Looks like they lost quite a few structures in total. I think it was about 70 bill, counting everything that, well, died that dropped out, and then the structures. I don't see much of a defense being put up from what I looked at. Which,
No, I was looking around and I didn't see any defense. There might have been a fight on a wormhole at some point during it, but from my looking, I didn't see anything.
yep, big eviction nonetheless. I'm sure HK came out with some nice loot out of that. Looks like they had a little indie setup, quite a few Rotarus, a couple of Athenors, all pretty expensive. So yeah, I'm sure that paid off for them. We'll be curious to see if Wormhub decides to GG go next and do it again. Hopefully they do. And then I think we had some more nano gamers up next, actually, and interesting little catch it looked like. Do you want to talk about what information you got from the guys that took part in this?
Yeah, I reached out for comment to debug here, and he kind of gave a short and sweet version of what happened. It was just they were hunting around. They saw HK coming back from an eviction, and unfortunately for HK, one of the wormholes rolled on them, and that sealed the deal. The bugs came in and just grabbed what was stuck. Just goes to show that you can never be too cautious when moving around.
Yeah, it just goes to show being out and about too. Some
Oh
just
yeah,
pays off dividends. Not sitting in the structure all the time, having scanners out, eyes out, things cloaked up in particular places, and pay off when you least expect it. Sometimes. For
yeah.
those of you not familiar with Debug, somebody who I've recently become familiar with as he's frequented our hole a few times. He is quite the gamer. Uh, CEO of Rage Quit Cancel Sub, big AT team. I think they've gone pretty deep last year and years before. Um, so yeah, he does big things. And
That's
go ahead.
I say it's really cool to see him operating in wormholes the way he is.
Yeah,
Usually
absolutely.
it's pretty uncommon to see AT members outside of like a C205 operating in wormholes, you know? So it's really kind of neat.
Not only is he operating in wormholes, he flies solo a lot.
Yeah.
Wormholes, um, quite what's the word? Intimidating to try to take on. He knows what he's doing for sure. Not trying to blow up his spot too much, but great pilot. Love to keep seeing him doing similar things here. Following up with that was a little funny hee hee ha ha moment. Looks like Jebberbeck catching the old crab out in the C5. Grabbing Zern. Interesting pick. I'm sure it goes pretty well against Avengers. Can't say I've seen quite too much of it. Usually folks like to stick with Nags or Revs or something, but was quite interesting to see. Um
It's
there
definitely an interesting one. I
yeah,
don't think
the mobile
I think I've
scan
only
inhibitor,
seen.
the cargo.
Yeah, that's unique, huh?
Yeah, that is I'm gonna be honest, I was entirely unfamiliar with this item in the game before I saw it on this kill. I didn't even know it existed. But apparently, downside of it is this shows the mobile scan inhibitor shows on DScan instead of whatever you may or may not have there instead.
Yeah, so basically everyone just knows like, oh, just go skin that thing down because
Yeah.
there's gonna be something there.
And then I think probably some of the most interesting wormhole news that we've seen in quite a while. Well, probably actually since about, I don't know, what do you think about March last year when HK came back?
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
this year we have the resurrection of Inner Hell, it looks like.
Yeah,
Uh,
they've been getting kills all over the place.
yes. Yes, they have. Picked up a little C4 armor nag kill. Uh, I guess this guy was just trying to defend with his armor nag, but he ran into kind of the spookiest guys in J space to do that against.
Yeah, Inner Hell coming back is honestly amazing.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry,
I
what
was
were you
just
gonna say?
gonna, but when I was a new bro in ERB, they would show up and they would just steamroll you. It was as frustrating as it was to not kill a single person of Inner Hell. There was one day where we killed a single broadsword. And for a bunch of new bros who our doctrine back then was literally Vexers and Brutixes, for us to be able to do that was pretty amazing. Um, and then on the flip side of this, it was also pretty inspiring to be like, this is what you can be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at Inner Hell, the Corp themselves are 90% dangerous with 40, almost 45 trill killed. Their CEO, 99% dangerous with 11 trillion killed himself. Man has only ever lost 49, almost 49 billion. Not trying to do him a disservice there, round up, but 48.5 bill lost. Hell for the corporation, a little bit lower. I think this is alt corp if I'm maybe wrong on that, but nonetheless, very spooky group of guys. Some great players over there. I got to hang out with one of them in MSF for a couple of months. Gerald, great man, awesome diplomat. Helped me get my farm. Doing some diplomatic relations with, I think it's Verlate is how you say it. Verlat. That was.
I'm not actually too sure on how you say it, to be honest with you.
I'm not too sure either. Maybe we'll get a correction on that. But great dude. I'm sure it's a good group of guys who are gonna come back and absolutely tear it up. So that's gonna be interesting to watch over the next couple of months. How they end up doing what they decide to do, if they're just right back to old shenanigans or if they change anything up.
Looks like we got Urbans and Drag Me. I guess we probably should start with the carrier and then move him up.
Um yes. Do you want to do the last two real quick and do that? I told him.
Sure.
This was quite the interesting BR. It was supposed to be, from what I think we pulled out of Praise Bob and saw looking at the timeline, it was supposed to be a Sus fight versus AD, and it kind of looks like Sus was kind of giving him the beans. Uh, Lost some Senos, shield versus armor. The Sus, interesting note, still has a good bit of MNIs, but still rocking quite a large Lashak core, which after the nerfs last year, not quite as popular as it once was, for better or worse. But then at some point during the brawl, see here, Sus really kind of just did most of the killing here. Laserhawks decided to attempt a third party. Fortunately, didn't quite go their way. Um, I'm sure Sus did not mind the additional content though, while they were all already at the keyboards ready to go.
Yeah, and it was kind of a familiar outcome with Shield, where you just rushed the Logi.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which,
The Logi definitely went down first. Well, outside of the Senos. Senos are very oppressive, though. You kind of almost have to, if you can, if you think you can, anyways.
yeah,
That's how much damage they're putting out. Almost 1,000, well, up to 1,000 DPS per pod on 6 guys. Putting out 12k DPS between the two of them. No missiles or anything else. Were they? Did they even have missiles, or were they NOS fit? Oh no, they are full
no,
damage
they,
fit.
yep,
Yep.
yeah, full damage.
So yeah, you
No power diagnostics in the low either.
no power diagnostics in the low, no NOSes to keep. I mean, they don't have any active tanks, so that is interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, just full blap Senos. He does have script does have PDSs in the lows. Interesting, interesting.
okay. Both of them are MWD fit, which is interesting.
That is another good point. I guess they're probably attempting to keep up with the rest of their fleet. Do they? They probably do. Oh, they do run ABs on their Lokis, though.
Yeah, that makes sense for Loki's.
Yeah. That interesting fits. I think the passive is probably actually a really good idea. Does kind of allow you to avoid one of the other thoughts that we had was running Gnosis in the highs to keep the active going, just keep you on grid as long as possible. But your passive, you don't really have to worry about that, huh? And finally was the Riho versus Riders BR. Um, Riders has been. I don't think I knew much about Riders early last year when before I took my break after the war or before the war, after the war, whatever. I took a break after the war. But coming, had you heard of Riders around that time?
I I knew of Riders when they were a New Bro Corp
Okay.
in C2 space. Um, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I knew of them
Yep.
before they went to high class.
Yeah, it's been kind of cool to see another high class corp coming in and normally kind of give the beans to people. But this time just didn't quite work out their way. They are, I think, from what I've seen on quite a few of their BRs, they're big fans of the monitor and J Space, which is kind of
Yeah,
rare.
yeah. Usually only see that in like wormhole war stuff or huge evictions.
Yep.
Getting a monitor out in maybe it was the bunny for EOS's. I'm not sure. I don't think
Um,
EOS's used
uh,
a monitor for a bunny.
Not generally. I have heard of that happening recently, and that may have been the case here because yeah, I don't see like a Hugin um on there. That would make sense though, because then you're just less likely to get headshot on what you're assisting all of your drones to. Um, I have seen a few other folks do that on some BRs lately, so not a bad idea at all. You're just relying entirely on the Vindy webs at that point, as you don't have your own.
And it's a fairly even fight too. If you look
Yeah.
at numbers to numbers,
Yep. I
I
think
would
they're
say that the
5.
only thing that's really lacking, the Glishat cores are just kind of known to always have at least like one, two pilgrims just to break their spool. You just go up and down the shacks just to constantly break spool.
Yep. Yeah, Damp's not really going to do that in a brawl, but Pilgrims certainly could. One of the interesting things I think that we had talked about as well was a lot of folks have been running armor Senos. I don't see Riho with any Senos, which is quite interesting. Obviously, the tank is bad at that.
But Riders has an armor center.
Yep, sure do have an armor Seno. Yeah, I mean, the tough thing about the armor Seno is all you get is the rigs and 3 lows to play with at that point, so it it almost works. I think it's very tight, but if you can get it to work, Senos are just oppressive. So
Yeah, it's an interesting one too.
yep. 3 pilgrims. At Moyne no longer rocking the classic Balgorn. He's in the rattlesnake there. Wonder how he likes the swap up. I think. Oh yeah, we have one last birthday moment that happened. Uh, the rare Pochfin capital, the last of a dying breed here, no longer able to be made. Similar to Citadels no longer being able to be put down. I think you have a little bit more info for us on this one, right, Evie?
I do. I reached out to one of the guys who was on the Thanatos kill. Um, and it was kind of a lot of overwhelming numbers made it so the initial fight here wasn't too much. Um, it was kind of just kill the carrier and then hooray, everyone's got like a once in a lifetime kill in Pochvan, or I guess priceless kill in Pochvan. Um, however, I was told that there was a fight immediately following this in Pochvan that was a lot more interesting. He came back in his usual Bargus comp, and he came back killing 12 bill of just ravens and tengus and random stuff that could be there.
Wow.
So it's kind of neat.
Nice.
It's not often that someone's doing like a birthday feed and then actually gets to get into a fight where they kill stuff. There was a guy in Turbo who took a wanted to do a birthday roam. He took a Zern out to Delve and they just lit a
Supers.
Sino and killed him.
Yeah.
It was it. There wasn't even like a subcap on grid. It was super straight to death, and you're like, cool,
One of
appreciate that.
one of the more appreciated things of wormhole space for sure. Being able to not have to worry about sinos. Pretty sweet. All right. Well, I think then at this point in the show, we've got our first guest coming on here.
BR we're gonna be touching on is an MSF BR versus who was it? Almost Dangerous and Echo.
Yep. That is correct. And we've got him here. Gonna go ahead and get a couple things fixed up for us. Urbans, how's it going, man?
Good. How y'all doing?
Doing good,
Good, yeah.
doing good. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come talk to us about your first brawl being the Dread pilot, man. How'd you enjoy that?
Yeah, yeah. No, it was a good time. Lots of things to learn. Lots of just new stuff rather than just being one of the line guys following broadcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
I guess the most important question was it a lot of fun?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a cool and fun experience.
that's awesome. Yeah, that was first time flying NFI. Well, first time flying any Dread in a brawl. You guys absolutely smoked them. 40 bill to 6 bill. I think there was what a little DC on the lift, but or the lift on their end, but you guys gave him the cordial pause until he came back and then started up again.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's if we hop right into the fight right now. Kind of what went down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
go for it.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So in the beginning, it was we warped on the grid, and the Zern had already sieged. I think we were like 130 or 140, somewhere there. Pretty far off, outside of the range of the NFI. Definitely in the beginning. So we were just slow boating up, trying to figure out what our game plan was going to be, and the Zern started taking pop shots at us, and we were able to damp him off completely, which was pretty funny in itself. Um,
Okay.
But then yeah, once we got up into range, we uh we started primarying the widows, and this was kind of like the first spot where I was just like we just melted the widows.
Yeah, I watched the
It was like
video. They it looked like Mark basically got webs on them. You shot them and they were cooked.
I mean yeah, it was like two reps and the widow was cooked, and I was like there's with it being my first dread fight, I was like there's it's like that really how hard this thing hits, like that was unreal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Um
and
and
and then we realized that they had no that their lift was gone. So that's not really how hard it hits.
well, it still hit it, but yeah, they
Uh,
unfortunately weren't repping it at that exact moment in time.
yeah, yeah. So that was that was just kind of it was pretty crazy. I was just like, man, that was awesome. Um, and then but then yeah, so there's a little tactical pause of letting them get back on grid, and then that's when we got back into it.
That's cool. It goes to say a lot about MSF's character. Like respecting the fact that like, yeah, he DC'd. We'll wait though. Because you guys care about the fight, you know? That's cool.
Yeah,
There's
yeah. It was
not a lot of groups who would do that.
yeah. I didn't even in the video. It kind of looks like I mean we did wait, not like intentionally. It was you can of course when you're watching the replay and on YouTube you can see that they in local said that they DC and it kind of took us a minute to respond, but it was once we actually realized it, we just we pulled back immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, there was that clear call when the DC was made. I think they even gave Cyrus time for the cordial poop, if I'm not mistaken, from what I heard in the
Oh yeah,
video. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It took us a little while to it wasn't an organized brawl. Just it was by chance, kind of like normal. So it took us a little bit longer than we would have liked to form up, but we were able to all show up.
yeah, sometimes brawls end up like that. Not not exactly as fast as you would like, but it's worth it for the time for the fight, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, so that was kind of the some excitement in the beginning with everybody having the pauses and getting reset, and then it's the brawl kicked back off, and that was really the first. I mean, that is obviously this is the point. It is the first time, but my first experience of eyes on the dread. I was not calling targets really at all.
Hmm.
We were relying on Mark and Cyrus for that, which is one of the things that in the future after I'm already more confident in being able to call targets in the future from the dreads point. Um, Even after the first brawl, just it was just kind of like eye opening seeing how everything goes from sitting behind everybody and being the big stick.
Yeah, and what was it? Scale that was doing the anchoring for your
Yeah,
subcaps as well. Nice.
yeah, yeah. Scully was out in front,
Uh,
leading the charge.
Hell yeah. So I guess to like take it back a little bit, what what got you into Eve? Where did you start out? How did you get into wormholes?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, Eve. It was one of the games. I mean, I've always played MMOs or on and off with WoW and other games of nature. I really went to full PvP prior to that with New World, and that's where I
Okay.
really liked really getting heavier into the PvP side, and that's kind of when I transitioned over to Eve, and it was kind of I feel like this is kind of the story a lot of people see, but I read the articles about the big null block brawls with thousands of pilots and all this craziness.
Right.
So that's what kind of brought me in, and then once I got into it, kind of had that realization that that's really a far way away as a new player. So I made the jump into the goons in the beginning, which I absolutely hated. So I dropped on and off, and then eventually, after a couple of years of leaving and coming back, I started getting into wormholes. It was like, okay, this is kind of smaller groups. There's ways to make ISK here without having to do more just complicated things from being still a semi new player. It just didn't seem as daunting, which is maybe kind of weird, like because most people think wormholes is
Yeah.
daunting, but it seemed less daunting to me because it was more of a like a nomad life. Like I could go in solo and not have to worry. I could just do whatever I wanted.
It is
Um,
interesting that you say it's less daunting because it's almost just more daunting to everybody else. It seems like they see scanning and they're
yeah,
just, I don't want, I'm good. I like taking
yeah,
gates.
yeah. So that's it's maybe just why I don't know. That was just kind of my thought. It was, of course, I did the old YouTube video. I'm like, all right, how can I make this? So right off the bat with my getting into wormholes. I mean, I started day tripping. I started getting my little huffing fleet going, my exploration and my hacking. So I basically just come in with like a Noctis and a Tengu and some sort of huffer, and I'd basically just hop into a hole and I'd start clearing sites, scanning, hacking, and huffing. That's kind of how I kicked it off.
Wow.
Making some actual ISK in a short time frame rather than sitting on like an asteroid belt or something. It's just mind numbing.
It's funny how you and Evie both started with the day tripping into like gas huffing versus, I guess for myself, I knew I just had to like all in it. Like I just applied to turbo once I got accepted by wins in turbo and got the approval, just moved everything. I not everything, but just started moving in and just living it. I never did any day tripping beforehand, and like, well, if I'm gonna give it a go, I'm gonna give it an honest go at that point.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure. Well, I applied to a bunch of corps when I was day tripping, but and not that my PvP is strong by any means. More of a just happenstance that I've ended up where I was. But I mean, turbo. I'm pretty sure I applied the turbo and like 5 or 6 others. Everybody was like, "Hey, your PvP, your your Z kill is just like you don't even PvP. Like, what is it?" Um, I'm like, yeah, well, I'm trying to do that, but I just die all the time because I'm by myself.
Right. Yeah, it is
Um,
punishing place for the solo player trying to learn.
yeah, yeah. So at that point, I kind of bounced around one or two small, just new wormhole groups, and then I fell into I went into Turbo Pups, which was I mean I know you know what it is, but the feeder core for Turbo,
Yep.
and it kind of seemed to be like it kept happening to me at every corp I joined. It's like I joined, and then it was like the CEO was not active. The corp was just kind of like doing whatever they want. And that's exactly what the stage that Turbo Pups was in at the point when I joined. And shortly within 3 weeks, Turbo Pups collapsed, and that's when Mark basically had the open invite to everybody and Pups to come to Turbo that met the SP requirements, which I had the SP requirements. Just I couldn't fly much of the doctrine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I remember when I joined Turbo, going from nullsec doctrines to wormhole doctrines are dramatically different for the most part. Flying a lot of command
yeah,
ships, not flying nearly so many kikis, or just T1 battle cruisers. It steps up in completely different places. Not as nearly as many heavy assault cruisers, if any, almost at all ever.
I think the only like heavy assault cruiser that's viable in wormholes is like a sack,
Yeah.
and even that's like really stretching it.
Yep. Yep. We
yeah,
were. Yeah, and there's not even many people fly the sack. I think the first time I think we talked about a sack in a long time was the other day when we were trying to get oh man, who was it? Evie, was it Pugil? No, was it
Oh, it
that?
was Vapor Lock. They used
Yes.
remote repair sacks, or used remote repair sacks with Drex.
Yep. So we were kind of expecting that, and that didn't even end up unfolding that way.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't think
yeah,
we remote repair sacks and Drex or Marauders, and we didn't get either of it.
still got a good fight though. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I guess uh, bringing it back to the brawl there. Um, how did you like flying the NFI, and do you think you would fly an NFI again?
Yeah, well, so this is another thing that keeps happening to me is everybody has a different point of view, or what's the best ship for what situation. And it's just kind of like when I first started crabbing, when I was starting my first build or just training into being able to crab. I flew the golem, and it's just because I like the way the golem looks the best out of everything. And then I start actually doing it. Everyone's like, "Man, the golem sucks. You need to be, in a barter." I'm like, "Okay, well, let me start this over." Um, so that's kind of how I ended up in the NFI because originally I trained into a rev to start crabbing because whatever I read or whatever fit I had from somebody in Turbo, it was like the rev melts the drifter the fastest. I was like, well, I want to do that. And then that ended up not being the most optimal fit for crabbing, so I transitioned over to the NAG, and then jumped up into the NFI. So almost all of my dread experience is in the NAG or the NFI, or with the
Okay.
Rev with the Rev when I'm dual boxing for crabbing, which I've transitioned over to dual boxing ags now. Um, no, I've got two NAG pilots. Um, but so yeah, I like flying NFI. I have not flown other than the NFI or the Rev. I just started my Zern training because the other that is the the fit that everybody. I mean, that's meta, right? That's what everybody is saying. Like, you need to be in a Zern if we're going to main the dread.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it seems like if you want to kill other caps, the Zern is kind of the way to go at the present point in time.
Yeah, and I can't speak on on how it works because I don't have any experience with it. I mean, my experience is it was like, well, we killed the Zern in the NFI, so from my point of view, it's not like the NFI is doing bad.
Right.
Um, so it's I like it. I'm more confident in it, and of course that'll come with other time as I fly other things. Um, the experience in it was good. I That was my flash intro into inject repping.
Yep.
We of course prior to the fight, Cyrus was like, this is, and I've talked about it with some of the other guys. Everyone's talking about it, but it's not like I had an opportunity to test it
Yeah.
prior to that.
Yeah, short of having your guys on dock and try and beat the shit out of you in your own hole, it's not the easiest thing in the world to test.
Yeah, and we hadn't had time to do that, and that's kind of how I ended up in the dread was Mark. Mark had we fed a couple Zerns and some Rev and some other things, and even just like the prior week. So I figured I'd give Mark a little help in his wallet, and so I was like, yeah, I'll man the dread. Um, I brought a couple in to do it, so time to do it.
I guess to go into inject repping here, because some people don't know what that is. And I think you've got a unique perspective on it for someone who learned about it and then was able to do it so recently. What are I guess what are some of the nuances or like overlooked things about inject repping that you either wish you knew before or wish was explained better, or I guess just anything about flying
Yeah,
a dread?
yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the explanations are, there wasn't a whole lot other than just, what could go wrong. Um, but I don't think I realized how how nuded down the fleet um, would keep the cap at when you're inject repping, because it's like you inject rep in the neg, and it's double injects, and it's like you cycle one, and like it's just gone. There's no like, hey, you fill it back up, and then it's like they burn it back down slow. It's like you you smash your inject and cycle all your shields and your resistors, and then it's just gone. Um, so I think if someone would have mentioned that, that probably would have been a little bit more um, helpful. Um, Even just to think, just maintaining um, the the amount of sticks having in the ship. Like, how many do I need to bring? I don't know. I just put as many as I could in there. Like, should I bring more ammo? Should I
Right.
bring more sticks? Like, I have no idea. So I just kind of was like, I'll bring 4,000 of the ammo types I have, and I'll just fill the rest up with sticks. And I guess that's enough. I have no idea. Um, and Cyrus being on top of his game like he usually is, he called in for me to get topped off um, mid fight as it was. So of course that was helpful. That's another thing just to know now when to just to be maintaining vision on your sticks to have resupply brought in with the DST.
I
Um,
was gonna ask that next. I was just like, did you guys have a DST? But yeah, it sounds like you did. That's good.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I never got like danger low on sticks. Um, I refilled with like 14 left, which was still decent. That's about half of what I brought out. So I wasn't in a bad spot. But also just having everything set up for the inject rep, getting everything on the same tick. It was like um, I had I didn't have my resist on the numerical pad. I had them on my alt, so I was like mouse mouse clicking and keyboard smashing all at the same time to try to get things off. Plus overloading. I mean, I know y'all saw the video, but I mean, I went down to 19. I hit 19% hull.
Yeah. What was it the did they start bumping the Zern? Is that what stopped you from eventually breaking, or how did you end up holding there? You overheat
You know,
multi-specs or
yeah. So I mean, I was overheating prior to that. Um, I know, I don't know exactly how, because it was like, of course, everything's it was going a lot faster in the middle of the fight, trying to remember what
right?
exactly I did. Um, because they were, it started primarying me, and it wasn't even like, so the zone got on me first, and it wasn't anything big. Like he would take my shield down, I would just cycle shields, and then, it was just, I'd hover, I'd hang out, just keep shooting for, 5, 10, 15 seconds, and then he'd get me back down, and I would just cycle shields, and it was just kind of like that for a little while, and it wasn't anything big. And then once the fleet primaried me, I mean, it was just like, the damage just came on. And to say that I perfectly inject repped and got everything off in the beginning would be a complete lie. So I really think I just survived through it, because after 5, 6 reps of just inject repping, I just kind of got into a groove of not missing things.
Did you find that you would focus on repping sometimes over like trying to shoot something, or did you just get into such a groove that you were good to go on both fronts?
Well, at that point, we were focusing the Zern, so I was no target swapping, so
Yeah,
it wasn't, I just, as long as my gun was cycling, which it was, and I was
and
getting it,
alive.
and I was just, yeah, and staying alive. That's. Can I tell you anything that was going on, like in the rest of the fight? No, I was just staring at, my timers and everything, just to make sure that they were on. Um, so yeah, it was just like survival, keep the gun running, don't die. I mean, I basically called out. I was like, I'm dying. I'm like, I'm going down. I'm 19% all, and then at that point, it was just like I survived. And then after I kind of got in that groove, like they couldn't break shield at that point.
Nice.
Um, yeah, yeah. So that was a little bit of excitement there. Um, and then shortly after that, the Zern broke.
Yeah, and then it was just bombs away at that point. Just shoot everything.
Yeah, yeah. So that's where I really had to start. One of the things is that's another thing too, with being in the brawl and the dread, is I'm used to my having my overview set up for crabbing, but once I tweaked it for this brawl, like I didn't do it correctly. So there was a lot of information that, you know Cyrus was trying to get out of me that I couldn't even provide in a timely manner, just because my overview was just bouncing all over the place. And I couldn't, I didn't know what was really going on with who was where or what when it was coming to their transversals to me.
Yep.
Um, so at that point, once then Mark just started webbing things down, and it was pretty breezy after that point. Um, but yeah, it was after the Zern broke, and from what he burnt. I don't know anything about the dude, but I mean, he burnt one of his shield reps out, and that's why we were able to break him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I mean, he was still breaking prior to that, but you know, it definitely was expedited once he burned out one of his 2 reps.
Yeah. After reps
Yeah,
of what was
Yeah.
yeah, I'll do it.
what was the reaction when Echo showed up on grid?
Yeah. It kind of like the video, like, what the fuck, what is this?
Yeah. There's just like 10 guys showing up with a couple of Senos and some Lokis. And then you
Yeah.
guys just picked up a couple of free kills.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they got some kills on us too, though. I mean, it was like they came in, they started poking around and just harassing, and then once once Lucas left, the they like cloaked up, so we're like, okay, they're off grid, and then we started doing like the cleanup, just scoop and loot, and the the fleet got kind of spread out, and then they started popping on people, and they got some kills.
Yeah, it looks like they got Trimson and one of Grafhammer's characters in the Proteus.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Oh,
so they're just being a menace to society is what they were being at that point.
yeah, absolutely doing what they could to get involved at some capacity.
Yeah, yeah. But then I mean, the whole thing it was fun. I wasn't worried about losing the dread in the fight. I mean, really to go into your first dread brawl and just have the expectation that you're not going to lose a dread to me is kind of unrealistic.
Right.
So it's pretty exciting to not lose it. And I mean, it's kind of my history with dreads is, I I feed dreads when I'm crapping, like it happens. Um, I mean, I think I've lost 10 since I started running dreads.
Have you found that you've like started losing less over time as you've like learned more, or
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm losing less. I mean, it's my last couple losses was, I mean, I'm in the middle of crabbing, and I mean my last one, Hawks. I mean, they rage rolled into me. I mean, what are you gonna do about that?
yeah,
Yeah, might as
Yeah,
well
yeah,
self-destruct.
yeah. I mean, I tried some things. It was, um, I tried swapping out my gyros for more capped. See if I could just like cap stable and just like survive for a while maybe I could scan out. But like I pulled off all of my lowers and put it all new um, recharges, and I still couldn't. They just completely just demolished me. Yeah. So but other than that, yeah, it's I'm losing less caps. Not scared to lose them or the dreads.
yep,
But I also crab. Like you can't feed the beast if you're not producing the IS to buy the ships.
well,
Yeah,
fortunately you didn't lose the last one, so now you've still got it for round two.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, so it's I'm looking forward to more being in the dread for more. I've got the Zern on the train up list. So I'm hoping to fleet that in the relative near future.
Oh yeah, man. We anything else that you want to add before? It looks like we're running about up onto our time here.
No, I mean I think that's really it. Other than I think the biggest thing is kind of like we talked prior to this is, I mean, dreads being on grid is, it's, if you're losing dreads, I mean, of course it sucks, but the more people that undock dreads and get into them, it's just more content across the board. Um,
yeah.
and it's to me that's kind of my goal is I like flying caps, and it's what I like to do.
Yeah, man.
I got one final question. Um, did you get the Eve PvP shakes in the Dread?
I did not. I was
Oh,
cool. I was calm and collective in my dread. Um, and I don't know if that was just because I think going into the brawl, the expectation was like I'm probably going to lose my dread. Um, compared to, I mean, I lost a trying to do my own little small gang three man fleet the other day. I lost my casino, and I was more cooking up about that than I was in the dread brawl.
yeah,
Yeah,
I know. I chased that. The
Yeah.
Eve PvP shakes are great.
Yeah, I get that more in the yeah, I don't know what it is. I get it more in the when I'm camping a hole or something than I did in the dread brawl.
I feel like I'd
Yeah.
be like kind of nervous up going into it, but probably usually by the time I'm in brawls, I am having a good time and just enjoying it at that point in the moment.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's fun. I like brawling. I'm glad we're back in high class. It kind of it was kind of torn at the split of the two and being back in high class, and I'm enjoying being back in high class. Yeah, and this is really my first experience in it because um, all my time in Turbo was during the war, and that was, a completely different situation than what normal high class life is.
That is, yeah, factual information. Wartime was definitely different.
Yep, yep.
Well, sweet, man. Any last thoughts, Evie? Any one final questions?
No, I think I'm all set.
Alrighty, Urbans. We appreciate you coming on for our first episode here. Hopefully, it wasn't too scuffed. And yeah, man, we look forward to seeing how it goes for you on round 2 next time you undock that thing.
Yeah, thanks for
Yep,
coming on.
awesome. Yep, thanks for having me.
Yeah, brother. Have a good rest of your night.
All right, y'all too.
Well, cool. I think that about wraps up episode 1 here, Evie. You have any final thoughts before we head on out for the evening?
No, I think I'm all set. It was cool to get everything he learned and all the feedback on the actual fighting.
Yeah.
Pretty rare when you get like the first-hand experience on it, and especially for his first time, getting him to recount that for everyone, that's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Having gone along, but I think I've probably known Urbans for about a year now, and we'll see him get to do his first Dread Brawl. And like I said to him, I think it's going to be even more impressive the second time around now that he's got a little bit more experience under his belt. Well, I think that about wraps it up for us, folks. If you guys have any cool Wormhole BRs, certainly shoot them on over to either Evie Kuvo or myself, Ajit, in game, and be more than happy to take a look at them, see if we can put them on the show next week. Till then, hope you guys all have a good one and take care.
See you next week.